I'll start with the DDL, people have introduced DDL first, but it all comes originally from discovery learning and the work of Piaget and Vygotsky, where you learn by discovering and understanding instead of memorizing things. Enter corpora in the equation, plus you have discovery learning through concentrated language data. And Tim Johns, and very nice to meet you in person too, John, who is the father's uncle of data-driven learning. Okay, there have been since then two classic approaches to data-driven learning. What Gabrielatos called the hard approach versus the soft approach, meaning the same thing. More recently, Alex Bolton said the hands-on approach and the hands-off approach. Using data-driven learning hands-on, students interact directly with computers, guided by their tutors, a bit like what Peter Crossway is doing in distant learning mode in Australia. In the hands-off mode, what you have instead is teacher interact with the software and they prepare materials for their students. It can be handouts or other materials. Both methods have advantages and disadvantages. These have been extensively discussed in the literature, not just by the authors here. So let's look at the hands-on approach first. What are the advantages? Well, first you have access to the combined intuitions of lots of speakers together. You're looking at language, how it is really used, instead of these textbooks, the one that John showed. You have answers to questions that haven't been documented in edited language resources because simply there's no room to cover everything in dictionaries and grammar books and textbooks. And that means learners can explore whatever aspect of language they want. And there is this serendipity factor. You end up learning new things that you weren't even looking for when you engage with this kind of activity. And that also leads to learner autonomy because you can consult a corpus at any time. You don't have to wait for a native speaker informant to help you. You can just consult them all at once. Okay, there are disadvantages, however. Computers are not always available in the language classroom. Corpus software was not particularly user-friendly, but this is changing now. It's becoming better and better. But this is not changing. Learners are not always aware of what they need help with. They carry on making same errors naively, and you don't know. And learners don't always know how to build relevant, appropriate corpus queries. Plus, some concordances can be too difficult, can contain non-standard language, errors, because it's authentic language. Inappropriate language, sexist language, whatever, things that you don't want really to bring into the classroom. And then what can happen very often, and I've seen it a lot among my students, I'm afraid, learners misinterpret the corpus data. And then serendipity can have a negative effect because learners can get distracted and then they end up not finding what they were looking for in the first place. Okay, hands-off approach then, also advantages, same advantages. Here you have access to the combined intuitions of lots of speakers. It's authentic language. You get answers to questions that haven't been documented in dictionaries, grammar books, textbooks. No computers are needed in the classroom. And learners don't have to learn how to use the software. Teachers, if the teachers are aware of learner needs, they can prepare tailor-made exercises for their students, going straight to the point. And teachers can adapt and edit raw corpus data if it is too difficult, non-standard, or inappropriate. There are, however, disadvantages. Teachers need to learn how to use corpora themselves, and we know that most language teachers don't. They have to prepare their own materials, and this can be time-consuming. Many teachers don't have time for that. They have to learn how to integrate corpora to their teaching. And it's amazing how many misguided data-driven learning materials you see around. Things that are only interesting to linguists and nerds like us, but which are not relevant in the least in the classroom, and are actually very, why do I want to find out what the blank word is? What does it mean to me? Okay, and then there's also this problem. If you are preparing materials beforehand, what's useful to one student may not be relevant to another one. And then again, teachers can only cover a limited amount of language. Okay, so what I'm trying to propose here is a third way. And I'm going to call it dynamic data-driven learning. And the idea is to develop intelligent tools where learners don't have to learn to use corpora, but will engage with data-driven learning as and when required. The data is curated so that learners don't get distracted or lost in the process. And we're trying to implement this experimentally with a ColloCaid project, which is a project led by Surrey in collaboration with the University of Bangor and Poznan in Poland, and funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council. And these are our team. Most of them are sitting over there. Okay. So what's ColloCaid? It's a dynamic data-driven learning writing assistant to help learners find the words they need. The focus is on academic English collocations. You all know what collocations are, things like this. Okay, so there is already lots of help with collocations available. You have textbooks that focus on academic collocations. You can look up collocations in general language dictionaries. If it's an academic word, you get some collocations for them. You have collocation dictionaries. And in the Longman one, you even have the appendix, which contains an academic collocations list. You have even an academic English dictionary, and where you can see that they emphasize collocations. So here are collocations for research. So there's lots of help available. If you don't find what you need in edited resources, you can go to corpora. And as you can see, this is not very user-friendly, but this is the academic component of the corpus of contemporary American English, and you have here collocations of research in the corpus. Not very user-friendly in my opinion. However, you do have tools that have been made more user-friendly, and this is the Flax library that uses the, do you pronounce it BAAL? Yeah, see you were saying B-A-W-E.
I think in Australia they have problems with their vowels. You know?
Okay, right. So it uses data from Hillary's BAAL corpus to give you collocations. So here's again for research. And you have Sketch Engine for English language learning, which is open and it's really user-friendly. So what verbs go with research as subject, with research as object, adjectives. They don't have prepositions though. Interesting. Okay, so in summary, there are some excellent resources available, but there are limitations. If they are curated like dictionaries, the coverage is limited. If they're not curated, like corpora, there's noise, there's irrelevant information. If you look up a word like table in scale, you have non-academic uses of table like this, but you also have mixed up with academic uses of table like the findings in table 3 or something like that. So it's not that easy, okay? But most importantly, learners won't look up collocations if they are not aware that they have collocation problems. And The other thing about academic writing is that it's cognitively a very demanding task. Even if you've been doing it for years, like me, it's still difficult. I still sweat and cry and take ages to write a paper. So you don't want to stop concentrating to look up a collocation. Okay, so what's different about ColloCaid? Well, we want to help EAP writers, academic writers, to find their collocations they need in real time as they write. And at the same time, we want to raise awareness to collocation problems they don't even imagine they might have. Okay, so first thing, you're writing your text editor, and if you write a mistake, it will highlight it for you like this. But instead of auto-correcting, it's not meant to do that, it's meant to help you learn. So it will do something like this. Most importantly, it will not just correct reactively, it will help to learn. So we want the tool to raise awareness to collocations that EAP users may not remember to look up in the first place. So you're writing something like this, and if research is one of our words in our database, in our lexicographic database, as you write, it will be highlighted. You can carry on writing as you wish without bothering about it, but what's important here, if it's highlighted, you know that there will be information about collocations surrounding this word. And then you can click and it will pop up a collocational paradigm for this word. So verbs that go with research, research plus a verb, research plus an adjective or modifier, and research plus prepositions. And you can find what you want there and carry on writing without disrupting the flow of your words. Or you might want to explore further. I need something like maybe conduct research, and you can expand this paradigm and it will give you more verbs to use with research as an object. And then you say you can find what you want there and carry on writing. Or you might want to say, hey, give me some examples, I'm not sure. And it will pop up examples of how to use this in context, which you can cut and paste to your text and then adapt. And this is very important because research on dictionary use has shown that examples are very important. I'll come back to that. Okay, the tool is customizable, so you can, if you want to, switch off real-time help and check the text at the end, because some people don't want to get annoyed by that while they're writing. Okay, so just check everything at the end. It could be useful for revising and proofreading. And the idea is for it to be customizable in more than one way. So you're done with research, you've learned everything there is about collocations around research. You can just hide this prompt, and at any time you can restore hidden prompts. Important, meta-language kept to a minimum. So users don't have to decipher or know grammatical terminology. I didn't put object, subject, adjective, modifier. You didn't see that anywhere in the tool. But at the same time, the data will be curated so that, unlike corpora, users don't get distracted from their writing with irrelevant or misleading information or an overload of information. And unlike dictionaries, we will provide just the right amount, because when you look up a collocation in a dictionary, it can have too much. So you just go right, we try to present this in a layered approach, as you saw, so that you go straight to what you need. So what's our methodology? Which collocations are we focusing on? The starting point are individual words, not collocations. Because learners, when they're writing, well, learners, I mean any EAP user, they ask questions like, what verb can I use with research? Rather than where in my text can I fit in conduct research. So we're starting with individual words. And we want to focus, it's a 3-year project, and poor Garant is constructing the lexicographic database all by himself. And we have around time to focus on around 500, and we want collocations, academic words, and we want them to be the 500 most useful ones. And we're selecting this by using 3 well-known academic word lists. The first one is AVL, but not all of it, because all of it contains around 3,000 lemmas. We're making a selection, and the selection are the lemmas that are most frequent in BAAL, from a study carried out by Philippe Durand. We're cross-referencing that with the academic collocations list developed by Ackerman and Chen from the Pearson International Corpus of Academic English. And again, cross-referencing that with the academic keyword list developed by Magali Paco in Belgium, which is important because it contains words that are also in the general service list, like words like table, which can be used in an academic sense as well. So not just academic words which are not used in other domains. So what we did, we had a look at how these 3 lists overlap, and our 500 are from the shaded areas of overlap. So we're prioritizing the center here, but we're looking at all the lemmas where at least 2 lists overlap. Okay, which collocates? Once we defined which nodes, which are the core academic words, for noun bases, we're looking at adjectives, verbs as objects, verbs as subjects, prepositions. For verb bases, we're looking at adverbs and prepositions, and for adverbs, we're looking at, for adjectives, we're looking at adverbs. Not all academic words are collocationally productive, so some of them won't have any information, and some of them will produce very, very long lists. Okay, which sources are we using? This time we're not using BAAL, we're using expert academic English corpora, and we've obtained permission to use the first 2, which are proprietary, but we will also use the academic component of the BNC and of COCA if needed. We are finding it easiest and best to work with the Oxford Corpus of Academic English, which is available on Sketch Engine. Which tools we're using? We're using Sketch Engine and basically word sketches like this, which conveniently sort out collocations according to different grammatical relations. So these are collocations for research. Which criteria are we using? We're only looking at very strong collocations. With high co-occurrence frequencies. These are for the Oxford corpus. We found that these thresholds work well. We are ignoring collocates that are too general, like more research, much research, for example, and ignoring discipline-specific collocates like market research, social research, things like that. That's because we have found that for discipline, people know their disciplines. I don't need to be told compile a corpus, parallel corpus, because I know I studied corpus linguistics. What I need is, when I'm writing, to find a verb for the things I don't use all the time and that are more diluted in my lexical knowledge. Okay, and then we are getting from the corpora also good corpus examples, not too long, not too difficult. And we have this important thing because of the text editor integration. We want to save screen space and make them the least, not very distracting. Also, research shows that, like dictionaries, they sometimes just show only one scattered example. There's research to show that if you give 3 similar analogous examples, it helps learning more. So we are repeating the examples. And the collocation, we're trying to highlight it in the example because it also enhances retention. And colligation cues are given where relevant. So here, for example, you can see that research plus carry out is usually used in the passive voice. So all these things are data-driven learning. You're not explaining, but you're demonstrating how it's done based on expert corpora. Which errors are we looking at to correct? We're getting data from textbooks and dictionaries that have these error boxes, don't do this. We have a place in our websites where you can contribute with known academic errors if you want to, and we're looking at learner corpora. I put BAAL here because it has student writing in English, and sometimes you find evidence of underuse and overuse of certain collocations there. And I was just in Brazil last week looking at a Brazilian version corpus which is comparable to BAAL, and we were looking at problems there. So they found overuse of create assistant and underuse of things like design assistant. And then the integration with how to present the data. In the integration with text editors, we will be researching visualization and graphical techniques to help writers in a maximally helpful and minimally intrusive way, because academic writing is difficult. We don't want people to interrupt their writing with corpus searches or dictionary searches or too much information. Okay, so back to the hands-on. I think in our tool we resolved some of the problems here, although, you know, it's still an edited resource, so you won't be able to get this advantage. But learners can still explore not whatever aspect of language they want, but only collocations. They have to use computers, but people normally don't write in the classroom. But then all these disadvantages, I think we managed to cut off with our tool. And comparing with the hands-off approach, again, you have all the advantages. You still, but you don't have this one because it is an edited resource. Although we're planning to link, if a learner looks up a word that's not in our database, we're going to link it to external resources, for example, BAAL or SCALE or something like that. But our resource will be edited. You still need computers. You can do away with the teacher, but the tool is aware of learner needs, and it is tailor-made because it's customizable. You do away with the teacher altogether. And you do away with what's useful because people can customize the tool. But of course, you can only cover a limited amount of language because we only have limited research funding, but who knows, we might get more funding to carry on. A demo, let's see if this works. This is the first time we're presenting this. I don't know if you can read it. And then you can carry on writing. The minute you choose something, you carry on writing. It's another example. And you can carry on writing. This is what Mirwan was doing last night until 1 a.m. in the morning, so we could have this for today. And then the minute you click, all the things. So that's it, some of our references, and thank you. We've
got time for just one or two questions, and then we'll have a break. Yes.
That's that's really interesting, thank you. Is that tool going to be available outside your institution or just internally?
Yes, we hope so. We hope it's going to be open, yes. We're still developing it, yeah. Yeah?
Yeah, I was interested in which text editor it's going to be integrated with, because that's pretty crucial, because you said you don't want to interrupt the process of people writing, but it's only going to work if you do it with the text editor that they're actually using.
Yeah, we are experimenting with Tiny MSC. Tiny Mice.
It's like an online, what you see, what you do there, but it's quite difficult to integrate the Word and other editor.
We're actually planning to sell this to Microsoft and become millionaires. But first, we're doing it in something in this Tiny Mice.
So the plan is to have it online and have a web-based interface. So Tiny MCE looks like Word, has all the same buttons and bold and things like that, so it looks a bit like what is familiar.
Can you cut and paste the work?
Yeah.
Yes. So you can do, if you don't mind getting your information like at the end, you can just cut and paste your essay into it. Yeah.
I'm really interested in what you have introduced. I just have one question. So if all students follow your suggestions, is it possible for them to write similar writing?
Well, academic writing is conventional, and you can choose from all the different. We're just putting the strongest collocations and we're making them available to writers. But we're not getting this from the empty air, we're getting this from published academic texts, and it is conventional. And the more conventional it is, the easier it is to read, and the more fluent the writing becomes. So yes.
I just got one question. That is, I mean, so often students write researches instead of research. Would it highlight that?
Yeah, because we are going to sort of, Tiny Mice does have a sort of spelling check and all that. So we will eventually, I think, take that.
Because it's not exactly a spelling error, is it? It's,
No.
It's a plural.
Yeah, but we're going to get data from Learner Corporate and all to be able to highlight exactly that kind of problem. Informations as well.
Are you planning to extend this to other languages?
Well,
I know that sounds.
we're scratching the surface, and we're working with academic English now because it's sort of a lingua franca for the dissemination of knowledge transfer. We're trying to customize it for different first language user groups, because different first language user groups will produce different mistakes and have different problems with academic language. But this is stage 2 of the project, when we apply for funding again.
Before you think about it. And I guess we've got another one, then we've got to stop.
Yeah, just a quick one about when you give when you were giving your verb collocates with research, conduct and carry out, are they then presented to the learner in frequency order, in the order of strength of the collocation, or how? I mean, how would I then, as a student, choose between conduct and carry out?
Through the examples. You could click on the examples. When they are similar, we're not going to spoon feed anything or say choose conduct, choose carry out. You can click on the examples and figure out which one fits in your text.
There's no significance to the order in which the examples are.
So